if you end up starting, if they end up starting in week 13, which free agent running back would you rather have in PPR? Benny Snell at Atlanta or Zonovan Knight at Minnesota? And Dave, Benny Snell is running away with it right there. So let's talk about our top 3 priorities. He's got 62% of the vote for those of you who cannot see. Who are your top priorities on the waiver wire this week?
Snell's going to be number 1, provided that we don't get a positive update on Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren from Mike Tomlin during his Tuesday press conference. We will probably have an idea of what's going on in Pittsburgh. Figure early afternoon. You'll see it all over social media, or you can go read the player updates on CBSSports.com. We'll have it there too. Snell's 1. Zonovan Bam Knight would be number 2. And then I would pivot off of running back and look at Zay Jones at number 3. He's available in 69% of leagues. And I also think that this is the time of year where it's a lot about what you need. And if you need a running back, and most fantasy managers want running back, they want to build depth. Okay, so that's why that position's first. But let's just say that you're loaded at running back and you don't want to fool around with Snell and Knight and these average players that are just getting an opportunity. You want to bulk up your receiver depth? Go for it. Zay Jones is the top name. You want to bulk up your tight end depth? I got bad news for you. You can't do that this week. Quarterback depth, bad news. Can't really do much of that this week either. But if you need something, don't be afraid to prioritize what your needs are versus what our top 3 are.
Can I just go back to Knight and Snell? I know we're talking about a lot, but so here's where I struggle with this a little bit. First off, there's, as you said, it's complicated. We don't know which of these 2 guys can end up starting because there's a lot at play here with Michael Carter, Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, all those guys. I do think there is a chance, based on what Knight showed and the comments that Robert Saleh made, that he may end up being the lead running back for the Jets rest of season. And so there's a little bit more long-term appeal. The fact that they made James Robinson a healthy scratch because they wanted to see what Knight had to offer. And the comment, at least that I saw from Zach Rosenblatt in The Athletic, was that they liked his running style. And so we know Carter has certainly been more of a complementary back as opposed to, last season when he was the lead back by design. But I think for this season, you've seen him more as the complementary back. And I think they've been a little bit upset with what they've gotten out of their ground game overall since Breece Hall has gone down. So there is the potential for some long-term appeal here for Knight, again, being part of a crowded backfield. So I think if you just tell me for 1 week, if I had to pick one of these guys, they're both starting, I would agree with the poll. I think Benny Snell's in a better spot because of his matchup. But if you are looking, I think from a long-term perspective, there's probably a longer scenario, a longer leash for Donovan Knight, just based on some of the things that play here. The third part of this, though, is if you don't need one of these guys, and I thought this might have been the direction Dave was going. I agree Zay Jones to be the third guy added, but J.K. Dobbins is now eligible to return, and you have the 3-week window of what he might be able to offer. It's not a short-term thing, so you got to make sure you're going to the playoffs. Week 15, let me see if I have the matchups right. Week 15, they get Cleveland, and week 16, they get Atlanta. If he's right by then, I don't care what Benny Snell does and what Zonovan Knight does. If J.K. Dobbins is J.K. Dobbins by then, it's a huge stretch to say that. But if he is,
right,
then that's a guy that could help you win your fantasy league. These guys may help you win a week. That guy can help you win your league. So, it's short-term versus long-term for me with that. So I agree. The 3 guys Dave listed should be the 3 priorities. But if you don't need a running back for this week and you're just, let somebody else want to deal with the headaches and the complications of Steelers and Jets, go get J.K. Dobbins if he's available.
I have many follow-up questions here. First of all, just to piggyback on what Jamie was saying about the Jets running back situation, I thought Robert Saleh had a very interesting quote. He said that they had left some meat on the bone with their runs, and Zonovan Knight is a one-cut, get vertical runner. And he said, well, we just felt like if we could get vertical, we had been leaving meat on the bone, basically. I'm paraphrasing, but so that's what they want. They want a guy who's going to just attack and just go, and that's what he did. Obviously, the competition steps up here in weight class with Minnesota this week and Buffalo next week. Those are 2 good run defenses. And you do have Ty Johnson playing on third downs, which he was doing, by the way, in the first half when Michael Carter was healthy. They actually had a 3-man backfield. So there is that. But yeah, Knight, James Robinson and Michael Carter basically split carries evenly a few weeks ago. And it seems like Knight was going to do that at the very least. But he obviously has an opportunity here. All right. My questions for you are, Benny Snell and Jalen Warren. Let's say Snell and Warren are both healthy.
Warren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's more explosive. He'll catch more passes. And he had the opportunity to be in that backfield before Snell did.
Correct.
Right, but he did it as the complimentary back. So does he keep that role and play the third
Probably.
down role, whereas Snell is the Harris role? Or
let's put it this: I think you've nailed it. I think that's what it'll be. But Snell isn't explosive. If you watch him run, he'll remind you of late career Jerome Bettis. He gets what's blocked. He's physical. He's got good vision. He's in many ways like James Robinson, I guess you could say. But I think he would end up being like the running downs back, and Warren would be the passing downs back. If catches count, that's going to favor Warren. If explosive plays count, that will favor Warren as well. If you start Snell and he's sharing, you're hoping that he finds the end zone.
Sounds a lot like Najee Harris, but we were
first note I wrote on Benny Snell was he's playing a lot like Najee Harris before Najee Harris was starting to get going, because Harris has looked good the past few weeks.
Well, Snell had a nice game last night. All right, so Jamie, same thing. You quickly said Warren. What do you think the split is if they're the two guys playing at Atlanta?
I think Benny Snell gets minimal touches if Jalen Warren is healthy.
Okay. So Warren is definitely then someone that we should at least consider.
So again, this is where the complications come in. So, you could spend your fab because you're trying to, secure a playoff spot or desperate to get into the playoffs, and you spend the rest of your fab on Benny Snell, and I'm not picking on you, Adam, but a lot of people I think did this. You spent a lot of your fab on Greg Dortch, right? And that ended up blowing up because he didn't end up playing. So it's a very similar type of scenario. You could spend a significant portion of your remaining fab on a guy like Benny Snell or Zonovan Knight, and they end up in spots where they're not playing very much, if at all. So you just have to understand that that's the potential right now as of Tuesday. Dave said something I think that's pretty telling earlier, in that Mike Tomlin typically is not a guy that holds his cards. So he'll tell you Tuesday that Jalen Warren is going to practice, or he'll tell you that Najee Harris, we're going to keep an eye on his status. He's going to be a little vague, clearly, but you can kind of get an idea of where they're going with how it is. Now I'll say that he also said that it wasn't a significant hamstring injury for Warren, and he didn't practice at all last week. So the reason I like Benny Snell better than Warren in terms of how I'm writing it is that he didn't practice at all last week, Warren. But I'm as I explained it there, I'm saying the same thing here. You may end up in a situation by Thursday that Jalen Warren has practiced in full, and Benny Snell is now the backup. There's a reason why, as Dave alluded to, they've been using Jalen Warren over Benny Snell.